Start again. So last class, this is where we stopped at. We got to about right here in our blocking process for our character. Alright, so if you guys don't know, we found that character online for free, so I just brought it in here as our basic kind of reference. And then I moved his arms down a little bit. I created a symmetry modifier to use on our character. So we should have something that looks roughly like this, and if you've already done all the other blocking pieces, you should just be moving and placing things in place. So once you've blocked out one of the assets, you've blocked out everything that you need to. So let's, let me just continue that. It's going to make a cylinder here. This will represent our shield. All right. Gonna hit A 90 degrees like that. Bring it in like so. We've got the shield in there. Probably gonna reduce the height quite a bit because it's not that thick. So we've got, we're getting our shield right now in place. Alright. Then I want to create the sheath for the sword and the fake sword, So just in case you guys missed it, I did it last time, but I just want to do it again just for the people, people who in the back who didn't see it or understand it. So I'm just gonna do a really rough amalgamation of the sword. So to do that, I can just throw on this edit poly modifier onto it. All right, you guys should see no board active. Let's turn on no board. Alright, so now you guys can see, I've got my sword here, and I can zero it out if I really want to, and then just hit 1 to do that swift loop action. So let's go in from design standard to the default. This is going to take us to the default. I use this interface whenever I'm doing like architectural stuff, so this is more of a modeling mindset in the way that it's laid out. So let us go into our modeling presets. I hit 2 on my keyboard to take me into my edge mode, which is located right up here. And if I now so this is the thing that I hit right here. So if I, click on it, it brings up this tool that I can use to place an edge wherever I want it. So if I place it up here, it places it along the horizontal, and then I can place whatever I want on the vertical. You can only place one at a time, but if you need something like a little randomized, you can do this. Now, this is one way to do it. Another way is I can select all of these edges, right click, and then hit connect. Right, and then I can increase the array. And what this does, the difference is this is going to make sure that they're evenly spaced in between those two edges that I have selected. So I'm going to close this out. That's 2 different ways to do one thing. Let me show you another way. It's the same way essentially, but you find that button also right here. So these connect settings or options, you can either do connect and it'll do whatever was previously done on there. So it remembers the last keystrokes or the last command that was put into these settings, right? And that's what it is going to do if you just click the button. But if you click this little box next to it, it brings up the settings, and then you can affect the pinch and the slide of your edges. And we talked about this, and you guys should remember this from your quiz that you took. So this is one of those things that I was talking about right there. So, and you can do that horizontally as well. You just hit right click and then you connect, right? It's the same settings that I put in previously, so it remembers that, and that's why you're getting that. But if you want less lines, right, less edges in there, you just scroll up or scroll down. You can even enter it if you want to, right? So I can enter the values that I want in there, right? So that's a few different ways to add edges to your polygons. All right, so I just went on a tangent just to show you guys how to do this, but sometimes you guys will get these as you're going, but I think it feels better when I'm using it in an actual project. So I'm just gonna hit 0, 0 there, and I know that it's gonna put an edge right in the middle of my polygon, and so I'm gonna do 2, hit 1 on my keyboard, and that's gonna bring up my selection options here. So I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, right? And all of these right here are mapped to 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 on my keyboard. And if you look down here, you can see where they're lighting up as I press them. So that the first one refers to the vertex, the second one refers to the edge, this one refers to the border. Right, so if you have an open face anywhere, an open border, it will help you select that entire border. All right, 4 is the actual polygon itself, so I can select individual polygons, and if this was split, it would only select one. So I'll show you what I mean by that. Boom, boom, connect. Right, so if I go back to 4, which is my polygon mode, right, I can now only select that. Right, so that's how that polygon works. And the last one, number 5 on the keyboard, right, that selects the entire element. So I just boom, select the entire element. I know I have it selected, and sometimes you might get confused, right? Think you have this selected and you have this selected, and you're like, why does it keep selecting the whole thing? I just want to select this, or But the reason is because you might have accidentally pressed the 5 key, or you might have accidentally had that element option selected. So you want to be sure that the element that you want is selected, or the selection tool you want is selected, and they're all mapped to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 on your keyboard. All right, so these are things that you guys should keep in mind. Use these, right? These are little hotkeys, and I've showed you several ways to do them now. So the next thing I want to do is select these. Right, I'm just drawing a marquee selection around those 2 verts that I want to manipulate, and I'm pulling them just straight on this x-axis right here. And whatever axis I have selected, it highlights yellow. Right? If I select this center one, it's going to do it based on the x and y axis. So now I can move it on the x and y, but I don't want to do that. I only want to move it on this one axis right here. So I can pull it out like so. All right, now I'm going to hit Alt and 1. And what that's mapped to, like I told you guys earlier, is my Swift loop, right? Because all I want to do is just add like a little piece right there, right? I want to add an edge right there. And I'm going to, so what I just did, I just Alt, middle mouse, right? You guys can see it on the screen. I Alt, middle mouse, and I just rotated. Right, Alt middle mouse to rotate around the object. Right, the first thing I want to do now is I want to just pull it out from the poster, because it's kind of it's embedding our poster right now, and we don't want that to happen. So we're gonna hit F on the keyboard, and let me show you guys a cool trick. So if I'm working and this happens a lot. You're working on top of each other and things start to get a little hectic. You're like, I want to see this or this, but this isn't my way. What you can do is there's a few different ways you can do that. You can select the objects you don't want, right? And then right click on anywhere in this gray area, right? Right click on the object, and then you can hide selection. Right, and that just takes away all of the clutter that you're seeing on the screen. It takes away all of that stuff, and it just gives you a clean view. You're good to go. You hit F on your keyboard, and now you're good to model again. So now I've cleaned up my screen space. I've got I've got a good clean model to use. So what I want to do now is I just want to rotate this about 90 degrees. So if I rotate it just off the jump, off the rip, you'll see that it gives me, but it's already kind of doing it. But usually I don't have my snap set up. But as you can see, whenever I rotate, it gives me the angles that it's rotating it. And if you want to rotate it based on a certain percentage, you hit your angle snaps here, you hit A on your keyboard, and then you just rotate. And as you can see in this yellow text right here, right, it's doing it based on 5% increments, right? You guys can see that. So it's 5, 60, 65, 70, and I want to rotate it 90 degrees, right? Boom. And the reason it kind of went all askew is because I accidentally rotated already. But so I just want to rotate 90 degrees like that, and I know that that is completely straight and flat to the canvas. So now another cool thing I do sometimes, or another little trick that you guys are going to have to learn eventually, this is as good a time as any to learn it, is whenever you're modeling something, right? You're like, all right, I want to model this, but I want to rotate it, and I don't want it to mess up what I'm doing. What you can do is you can select the object you're modeling, shift, drag it. It's going to bring up this option menu for you. It's going to say, hey, what do you want to do with this object? And you're going to say, I want to make it an instance of the object. You can make it a copy, an instance, or a reference. Right? These three are very important whenever you're creating anything because it allows you certain functionality. So what you want to do is select instance, right? You want to make sure it's an instance of that geometry. You can make as many copies as you want. This increases it if you want 64 copies. We only want one copy of this same mesh. I want to make it an instance, and I'm going to hit OK. And what you're going to see now is it's going to kind of bold out this text for you, this text of the object. It's going to bold it out. And what you're going to do with that, what that means is it's now an instance of this. So what these are now intrinsically, they're connected, right? It's the same object. It's like a clone in a different place. So now if I select this guy, all right, watch what happens to that top guy. And I hit shift, boom. I'm creating, right? I'm creating, and it's affecting this original, or this is just a clone of that. So what I can do is now I can rotate this guy in place, and then I can hit 1 on my keyboard, hit 4 to go into that view, right click while I'm holding Alt to go into my different movement axes. So I want to move it based on its local axes, right? And as I move it, it's moving that other one as well. So now I can just know how far that sword needs to go. So that's another little trick that you guys will have to kind of learn on your, while you're modeling. Some of these are a little advanced for you guys, but this is basic intro level stuff. Whenever in the grand scheme of things, this is basic, just basic knowledge. So these little tricks will allow you to move things the way that they need to move. So I'm gonna grow this. I'm gonna delete this guy, because I want them to be identical on both sides. So I can just hit 3 on the keyboard, hit cap, right there. And the cool thing about this stuff is, I like to reuse the geometry that's already there for a lot of different stuff. So I find myself doing that more often than not. So I selected these two. I hit 4 on my keyboard, right? Selected these two, right click, and I'm gonna hit bevel. Boom, just like that, right? The good thing about a bevel is whenever I extrude it, it's an extrude function with a taper attached to it. So now, boom, I can taper it in a little bit. If I hit this plus, it's gonna do that same thing again, right? Starting from that same selected face that you had. And then I'm just going to hit check mark right there to accept my settings. Right? Now I want to create this this body, or this the hilt and the handle. So I'm going to hit inset on my keyboard like that. just to inset that a little bit. I'm just gonna extrude this, and this isn't, you know, I don't even know what that sword looks like. This is just a placeholder, right? And I like to make my placeholders okay, just so that, you know, just so I whatever I have, I know it's close enough to the image, and you know, I'll know what I need to focus on whenever it's time to do the final. All right. So now I've got pretty much my sword. This is it completed. And what I mean by using the same geometry is now I can select this body piece, and I know that this is supposed to be the sheath of our sword, right? You guys can see that right here. This is our sheath. I'm just going to use this same geometry that we've already created for the sword to make our sheath. So I'm just going to select it like so, boom. And then I'm going to, this is another trick that you guys are going to learn about 3ds Max. I'm going to detach it, but I'm going to use the detach settings. And I'm going to detach it as a clone of itself. And if I say I want it as an element as well, what that's going to do is it's going to say, well, you want it to be inside of this same edit poly function. So it would essentially make it a clone and then leave it and nest it inside of this object. I don't want that to happen. I don't want it to be part of this geo anymore. I want it to be its own separate thing so I can move it around and do what I really need to do with it, which is place it and different things like that. So what I'm going to do with that is I'm going to hit detach as clone and then hit OK. All right. So now what that's done is it's created a clone of it outside of that edit poly, and it's made it its own edit poly function. So what we can do with that is I'm just going to throw a shell modifier on that, right? Let me not use my my configuration over here. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to go into my modifier list here, right? And if I hit S on my keyboard, just like that, it's going to pull up the S's. Boom, shell modifier. Same thing, but now this is saying that that's about an inch out. Let's bring that sucker in a little bit. All right, so this is going to be our sheath. And that is fine. All right, so now, okay, I want to see how this all fits into our overall model, our overall design so far. So I'm going to hit unhide all, just like so. All right. So now I've got my model. Let's hide box link. I mean, that might be the newest. That should be like the newest unlockable character in there. Box link. All right. So let's pull this guy a little further out, like so. And we know that this guy is going to go into his hand, and you know this the sword is actually in the right place. It's his hand that's not. So let's actually grab this part first, and I'm going to pull this guy out. I'm going to pull out the sheath, and then I'm just going to, all right, I'm moving it on the x-axis, moving it up, and as you guys can see, it's actually the opposite. So you know, I could hit E on my keyboard and try to rotate it, or I can just hit this mirror, right? This mirror function, and it's going to mirror based on the world coordinates. I'm going to in the transform on the x-axis, right? I can mirror it any way I want, right? So do you want to mirror, you know, another cool thing about the mirror function is you can make a copy of it, right? Mirror it on the X, right? So, you know, you can make multiple, or an instance do the same thing we did earlier, but I don't want any of those. I don't want a clone. I don't want anything. I just want to mirror this guy. So I'm just going to mirror this guy on the Y, hit OK like so. Well, actually, I think it was, was that right? Was that right the first time? Yeah, I need to mirror it on the X. Yeah, there we go. So now I can pull this guy to where it needs to go, hit E on the keyboard. I'm just going to do a little rotating just to make sure it matches. But, yeah. And then just pull it in a little closer. like so. All right. And it's fine that everything's all boxy right now. It's A-okay. A-okay. Because we're going to refine all these items later on, and you know, they're going to look better as they progress. But here we go. Yeah, we've got something decent now. We're starting to cook a little bit. Just a little bit, though. Okay, so we've got our sword. We've got Link in his, you know, first base pose. We haven't really, you know, assessed anything else. So let's see. We've got our shield, sheath, bow and arrow, sword, and okay, we've got our character. So you know, this would be a good time to kind of look through and you know look back on our blocking phase or look back on our blocking sheet, right? So now we're looking at. Let me show you guys what I'm looking at. So this is, you know, so we got our character, our sword, there's the birds, there's the sword, there's the master sword, which is right there. Then there's tall grass, the boulder we've already done, moon. Okay, the moon is just a circle, so that's easy to do. So I'm just going to hit F on my keyboard right here. It's not a circle, it's actually just a sphere. So, you know, little things like this are easy and they kind of fill out your scene pretty quickly. So things like that, that's, you know, boom. Another thing that you can check off the list of things to do, right? That's how you should feel about it. Like, all right, cool, I already got that. Boom, done that, moving on. Right? Let's see. For the birds, you know, there's a few ways we can do the birds. We can box them in right now, like block them out, and then replace them with more detailed birds later, or you know, better quality birds. You know, you can even spline them out, so you can, you know, let me actually in the rendering view. So if I go to my spline, I can just, oh my God, stop enabling it in viewport. So boom, you know. Close the spline like that. And then you can turn it into an editable poly like so, right? So you can do things like that to start off with and to help you kind of get the feel of everything in 3D. You know. There's just a few different ways that you can do it in the office or you know wherever you're working at that they'll find acceptable as like your blocking pass, you know, because ultimately they just, if they want it to be like photoreal or something and they want it to come out like that, they'll probably buy some birds online, you know, because what will happen is, well, these birds are either too far away, or if they're that important that we need to put somebody on it, then, you know, you'd have to charge different and different things like that. But for something like this, you can block them out. Even sometimes they'll even just find somebody who can paint them, right? You know, because these clouds have a very painterly feel to them. You can see the brush strokes, right? So there's definitely some painting going on in this photo. All right. So, looking on, we've completed the moon, base shield, the mountain, the sky. That's inherent. The castle / bridge. All right. So, let's see what's next. So let's attempt this little bridge thing right here. So the easiest way, you know, I'm a component of the. I'm a proponent, not a component. I'm a proponent
of using splines. But you have to understand how splines work to be able to use them properly. Right? The problem is that people don't understand that if you use spline, there's some cleanup that comes after, and are you able to do that cleanup? So I want to show you a few different ways that you guys can use splines to make your workflow just a little bit easier, just a little bit better. And I promise you, I know that I'm giving you guys a ton of information right now, but it's okay. You'll be able to survive. You'll make it past. It feels like a lot right now, but it's trust me, the sooner you guys kind of hear these words and hear these terms, the more comfortable you guys are going to feel inside of the software whenever you're having to actually deal with it. So splines, right? I feel like I'm throwing you guys, it's like I'm just pushing you guys into the pool and saying just go swim. But sometimes it's the best method. Sometimes it just is the best method to learn this kind of stuff. So all right, splines. So I'm going to start drawing the spline. I'm in my front view still, right? I'm going to just draw, actually, let's make it a rectangle. Instead of doing drawing it to the perspective, we're going to draw it flat and then move it to the perspective. All right, so I'm going to create a box like so, or a rectangle, using our spline. All right, and I'm going to grab a circle. All right, with that, just move it down. Actually, let's align it to this guy. And I'm going to just center it and the XYZ, and then that is perfectly fine, like so. And then I'm just going to select this guy, and I'm going to do, let's maybe do it twice. Make it an instance. I'm going to do 2 of these. Alright, actually, and then I'm just going to center this guy to this guy, and okay, and then increase the width like so. Alright, this is a pretty cool technique, and working with splines is one of those things that once you get and once you understand how to do, you're gonna be like, oh, okay, it's not that bad. All right, so now what I want to do is I'm gonna delete no. Okay, so I do want to delete it, but let's actually, I'm gonna go to 2. Delete those guys. All right. So now I've got just this arc that I want. And now what I can do is I can create line right here. Hit create line. Select my snapping toggle, right? This allows me to snap onto different things. And if I right click on it, it gives me an option to snap based on all of these different options, from my grid points to my pivot to my vertices to my edges and faces. But right now what I want to make sure I'm on is I want to make sure that I am selecting my vertex. I'm going to close that out. I'm just going to select this guy, hold down shift, and it's going to draw a straight line, right? Boom, I'm going to click right there. Then I'm going to hover over a little bit like that, right click, let it go. And now I've created a line. I'm going to do the same here where I go to my point right here, select it, hold down shift, make sure that I am pulling my lines all the way through. All right, so now I've got my arcs, or my arcs made. So I can just select all 3 of these. I'm going to right click, I'm going to convert them to editable splines. Then I'm going to attach, just going to attach, just start attaching all of these guys together. Right, and this is it's just a really cool part of splines, that now what I can do is I can just trim this right here. So I make sure that if you don't see the trim function, that means that you're not in the right element. So you've got segment
vertex, and then spline, right? And once again, they're mapped to 1, 2, and 3 on the keyboard, so there should be no reason. They try to make this stuff as easy as possible for you guys to remember. And that's what I kind of like about this, is they try to do the same thing over and over and over again so that it turns into repetition, to where once you do it in one place and you understand that, most of the other menus are set up like that. So now if I hit 3 on my keyboard, right, I can go into my spline view, right? And what spline view is essentially is you can just select the entire spline, right? If I select this, it's going to select whatever that entire spline is, no matter, it's going to be irrelevant to that. So now what I want to do is hit 3 on my keyboard, and I want to start trimming this guy. So I hit 3 on my keyboard, pulls up my trim menu. Now I can trim this guy. Actually, let's trim the insides of this guy. And then let's go back and clean up, right? We're just cleaning up our spline right here. Now I'm going to hit 1 on my keyboard, right? And that allows me to select the vertices. And now I'm going to just weld all of those together. Just going to maybe increase the threshold a little bit. Maybe decrease the threshold a little bit. And then weld them. So now if I select this, I made sure that now it is it's just one little piece, one piece. Good anime, one piece. All right, so if I now throw on an edit poly modifier, you can see that just like that, I have created this little faux bridge, and I'm just imagining that there's like another little one over there, that I can use. And the beauty of this is, because of the way we created it, we are non-destructively making this piece. So now if the art director comes and says, well, these things right here, these little posts, they're way too wide, buddy, you can come back in here and then you can just go back into 1 and then hit S just to get rid of my snaps, and I can start moving stuff around, right? Start moving things around. All right. To where everything fits back. So and that's the cool those are some of the really cool aspects of this. So it's like I'm just going to drag this guy like that. All right, just bringing them in. All right, it's like, oh, those are too thick. Let's make them a little skinnier, like what the reference looks like. All right, boom, done, good to go. All right. So now, we've thrown an edit poly modifier, which gives it polygonal faces, right? Which essentially just gives it these polygonal faces that now we can select and manipulate. All right. So another thing that you can do to clean up is, let's do a turn to poly and see what that will do for us. So let's do boom on. Let's turn that off. All right, so it did an okay job of cleaning it up, but this is still very ugly. Like this kind of geo right here is super ugly. This is going to be like the last thing I kind of show you guys how to do today, but this is not cool. Right, this is not cool. There's some engines that'll accept this and stuff like that, but that's not good looking geo. All right, and you guys will be able to tell when I show you guys good geo. All right, so the first thing you guys want to do to clean stuff like this up is, right now I've got these guys. I'm just going to show you guys some tricks that I do. So I'll hit connect there, and I'll connect the last ones at the top. Let's do alt and view. I'm going to connect these as well. Right. So it's going to do inset, just inset it a little bit. Hit 1 on the keyboard. Actually, let's do 4 again, and I'm going to delete this. Select this border. Actually, I'm going to do that for the whole thing just to make it easier. Let's go. Remove all of these. We're going to actually just inset the entire thing. Just inset the entire thing in general, like so. And then let us select like that. Select those two, connect. Select these two, connect. And then select, hit Alt and 1. I'm going to throw one right here. Just throw an edge loop right there, connect. Just hit Alt and 1. And hit 1 on the keyboard. Boom. Connect. And if you see that this is like an errant edge like this, like these are the little things, right? These are the little things that'll get you when it comes to cleaning up Geo. So I want to make sure that all my straights are straight, right? Like little things like this is very important, guys. Very, very important. You want to make sure that your geometry looks nice and clean. Nice and clean Geo, right? That's going to look way more impressive on a portfolio than just errant polys going in different places. So I'm going to hit R on my keyboard. Now look, I've got it slanted like this and I want to make it straight, right? This is another technique. I can just scale it in on the Z-axis here, just holding that edge. Now it's completely straight. Boom, connect, like that. Just making sure I've got all my connections in place. I'm going to hit Alt and 1 on my keyboard, right? And I can hit R. Once again, scale it in, scale it. All right. Boom, boom. Connect like so. All right. So now I'm gonna do that same thing I was about to do, but just on a grander scale. So I can select this, select those two, delete, hit 3 on my keyboard, Control and selecting another selection will convert those into that selection. So if I hit Control and select the vertices, it's going to convert my selection into the vertices selection. So, right, let's go back into our edges. I'm going to Alt to deselect these two top edges. I'm going to find my bridge function. I'm just going to bridge those. Right now, you see I'm getting this nice, clean topology going on here. So I'm going to Control click on my edge mode, Alt to deselect, and then I'm going to bridge those once again. All right. So for these guys, I've got 1, 2, 3, 4. So I just need 4 edges right here. So I'm just going to hit Connect. 1, 2, 3, and 4, just like that. All right. And I'm actually going to move these up a little bit and then hit 1 on the keyboard. All right. I'm going to hit 4 to delete this again. 3, right, will take me into my border view. Select that, Control select the edge. Boom, Alt to deselect. Then I can bridge those once again, right? And you guys see the process. It's at some point you're just like, okay, I get it. You know, you're just manipulating polygons to your will, right? So I can even use this to slide them up, right? There's a bunch of different ways to do a bunch of the same thing in this program. So, you know, I don't want you guys to get disappointed or feel like, oh man, I'm never gonna get it. You just need to find the way that makes you feel more comfortable or feels more, you know, your speed, and then do it that way. If your way is clicking through the things, I'm not gonna recommend it, but click through the menus if that's what you need to do to find things, right? But over time, your idea should be, for me to get faster, I need to be able to understand and learn these hotkeys that I need. All right, and then for the top ones, I've got 1, 2, 3, 6, 9. So I need 9. So I'm gonna hit 2 once again. Select these top, and then connect. Hit 9, and then just connect them. I'm actually going to connect this guy. I'm going to connect this guy. All right. And that's gonna be it. So I'm gonna boom, connect like that. Just bring this guy all the way over. 1, 2, 3, and then 4. The reason is I'm going to show you guys another little trick I like to do, because I'm a very lazy person. I'm going to tell you that now. I'm lazy when it comes to my modeling. I don't want to be doing the same repetitive motion over and over and over and over again. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you the another cool way to really start to get this stuff done. All right, so now I've got this guy, and I got to do this whole side next. Well, your boy's not going to do that. Right, I'm not gonna sit here and do all that extra stuff. What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna symmetry this thing so that it is just, the computer does the rest of my work for me. So I'm just gonna select this guy right in the middle, hit R, just make sure that it's scaled on the x-axis right there, like so that it's completely straight. And I'm gonna throw a symmetry modifier on it. On the x-axis, I'm going to flip it around, and voila. Voila. We got the same info that I did right there. And the cool part is, if I'm not even done with modeling it, what I can do is just go back into that view, and you'll see that because it's a symmetry of each other, I can just move them in place, right? Still working on it, but now I'm doing 2 sides for the price of 1. Alright? So little things like this will speed up your workflow. Make you a little bit faster. You ain't got to do it a billion times. When I was learning, I didn't understand that concept, but now it's one of those tried and true things that, if I can just symmetry this stuff, I can get this stuff done much faster. If I make sure that it's identical on both sides, I can work with it a little, So let's cut that out, and now I'm gonna just do a comparison for you guys of what, if I turned off my symmetry and I just used that. Look at, you guys can see the difference. Let's turn on black wireframes. I double clicked on that guy, hit OK. So I'm just going to double click, make sure it's black, hit OK. Hit M on my keyboard to get a new material on there. I'm just going to add this material right there. But now you guys can see, look at the cleanness, the neatness of this geometry versus this one. Right? When you're modeling, you want to achieve something like this, and it's something that people will tell you on the internet. Oh, that's going the wayside. You don't need to understand clean geo and stuff. You can just throw any garbage you want at the computer, and it'll be fine. It's not going to be fine, right? In the long run, you're going to want to have clean geometry because it just makes your computer run faster. It'll make your software run faster. It'll make your software run better, right? And it'll save you guys so many headaches and heartaches in the long run when it comes to modeling, because you're not having to deal with this. If somebody tells you to try to manipulate this, man, it's going to be hard to do it. So now we've got our model here. All we need now to do is throw a shell modifier on this guy. I'm going to do maybe let's just do a foot. Let's do 6 inches in this world. And then now I can just shift drag to make a copy of it. I'm going to just drag it in place. P on my keyboard to get into my perspective view. Hit Alt and X. I'm just going to scale it down a little bit. And then just, just start moving it in place. All right. So if I want to make changes now, I can just boom, select all these guys at the bottom. Just actually. Let's turn off these guys. Just pull them down if we need to. I would not do it in there just because it's not going to be straight. What I'll do is I'd pull this guy, make it an instance once again. Just rotate this guy a little bit like so. And once I got it into the place that I want it, I can go back to this guy. Whoa. Oops. I can just select this guy. Go back into my edit poly view right there. Hit 1 on the keyboard, select this guy, and watch this. Boop. Alright. So now I can fix it in real-time view, in the good view, and it won't affect the model. Alright, so now we've got this guy. We can now turn on our shell modifier, which I'm just going to reduce this guy quite a bit more. Alright, and this would be like our base poly if we're gonna, you know, we might take this guy into a sculpting program, sculpt it up, or, you know, do some cool stuff with it. But that's gonna be it for the class. I actually have to jump off here. I have a meeting that I have to attend to. But yeah, that's going to be it for the class. If you guys have any questions, throw them in the chat. Let me know what you guys have questions with. But this will be posted on the YouTube, and you guys can watch it, rewatch it, and, you know, dissect it, do what you need to do with it, and, you know, keep learning.